So we just saw how we could open images in Photoshop, but there's another better way to do that, and that's through another program that comes with Photoshop when you buy Photoshop, and it's called Adobe Bridge. Adobe Bridge is a separate program used for viewing, sorting, and looking at various images that are on your computer. So let's do that and we'll see how this all works. So we're going to come up to File, Browse in Bridge. When we click on Browse in Bridge, it should open another program called Adobe Bridge. And when it comes up, it should come up to the Essentials workspace. Okay, across the top here we have different workspaces that we can look at and use. Over here on the left hand side shows me what's on my computer currently. Okay, so right now I'm on the computer and I have various hard drives that I have here and DVD. I can also browse it by the folder level. Okay, if I click on folders, I can click on this little drop down arrow here and open up my hard drives. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Sundance drive. I'm going to go to my users. Okay, now I'm going to go to my name. Okay, so for you guys on a PC, you're going to want to go to your name as well, and you guys are going to go into your desktop. So find your desktop, and under your desktop you're going to find a folder called Stock Images, and that's what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to open up my folder. My stock images are actually located under my Pictures folder, so I'm going to click on my Pictures folder, and under Pictures I'm going to find my Stock folder. Okay, so this should be similar to what you guys see here. So we have stock, and this is basically images that are going to be used in this class. They're images that I've collected over the years that are not copyright protected, so we can use them in the academic environment. So anyway, we're going to click on Stock Architecture here to start with and open this up, and you can see how it's sorting my folders here alphabetically, starting with C and going down to W. Notice over here in this window though, they're not sorted alphabetically. So to sort things in Bridge, we can come over here to sort by, okay, right now it's sort by date modified. If I click this down, we can sort by file name, by type, by date created, by size, by dimensions, by resolution, and so on and so forth. If I do by file name, notice that windmill here is first, and that's because it's in right now descending order. Okay, you can see that right here. If I click on this, it's in ascending order now, so it should start with A and go all the way to Z. Okay, so in this case here we have castles, and I'm going to just double click on that, and now I can see my thumbnails in here. The very first time you open a folder that has images in it, you may see in the bottom left hand corner a little spinning circle, and it will be generating thumbnails. This only occurs once, but it usually happens so fast you don't even see it. So anyway, so now I'm looking at my images in this folder called Castles, and down here at the bottom I can make my thumbnails larger or smaller by dragging this slider. So you can see here I can make my thumbnails much smaller, or I can make them much larger. Okay, so if I want to open an image in Photoshop, all I have to do is pick the image, and I can double click it, or I can right click on the image itself, and I can say open with. I can open it in another program, or so on and so forth. I usually just double click on the image and it will open it up directly in Photoshop. And so you can see how easy that is. So I want to go back and open up some other images and talk a little bit more about Bridge. So I'm going to come down and click on Bridge again. So when I do select an image, like this one for instance, notice over here we have a preview of it, and it has metadata down here. Metadata is basically text or information that is attached to an image, And most images will have some metadata, some will have more than others. It just depends on where the image came from. And in this case here, we can see at the very top some basic information about what the image is, okay, or basically how big the image is. The file itself, okay, dimensionally is 1584 by 1052 in pixels. So this is the width and this is the height. This is the file size right here. This is the pixels per inch, or the resolution of this image, and what type of image it is. This is an RGB, or red, green, blue image. This window here is basically showing us some camera data. It's telling us that it was shot with an f-stop of 3.2, a shutter speed of 1/1200th of a second. It used auto white balance. It had an ISO setting of 100. Now, this information, if you're not familiar with cameras, may sound pretty foreign to you. You don't need to worry about that right now in this class, but it's just something that if you know about cameras, then that will make sense to you, and if you don't, then it's really not that important at this point. But and we can scroll down this metadata as well, and we can also see camera data. Some images will have camera data and others won't. It depends on, you know, if the person or the camera actually saved that information. But by clicking on this image, I can see that the camera that took this picture was a Fujifilm camera. It was a FinePix. This is the model number. It also tells me what type of lens took this, whether or not the flash fired or not, and so on and so forth. So every image is going to have some different data in here. So if we click on this one, for instance, you can see here there is no camera data. Okay, we only have file properties for it. If I click on this one does have camera data. Okay, so on and so forth. We don't really need to get into that too much. But say I want to open up several images all at once, okay, I can kind of scroll down through these, and I can click and drag with my mouse, and I can highlight several images at once. So if I wanted to, I could right click on these 6 images that I've just highlighted and say open, and it'll open all 6 in different tabs in Photoshop, just like that. So now you can see we have all these tabs open at the top with all these different images. Okay, so I want to close these out. I don't want to use these at this point. So the easiest way to close out multiple images is to come up to File and say Close All. Okay, and we'll just close them all. Okay, so I'm going to go right back to Bridge again, and this time I may want, say, this image, and I may want this image. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the Command key on a Mac or the Control key on a PC and select the images that I want. Okay, and I can select as many as I need. Okay, and I can right click and say open, and it will open all of those images that I just selected again. Okay, we can also, I'm going to close all those as well and go back into Bridge. Okay, I can just click on a single image by double clicking it, and it will open it up in Photoshop. So a couple different ways to open things, you know, depending if you're opening multiple images or single images. Okay, so I want to open up, you know, a few more like this, and just right click and say open. Okay, so we have 4 images open. So basically that's how Bridge works in its very simplest form, and we'll get more into Bridge as we go along throughout the semester. Bridge itself is like I said, it's a program itself, and there's lots of other things that you can do within Bridge to work on images. You can do some editing in here. Again, like I said, you can sort by file name and all this sort of stuff. You can customize your interface. If you don't like the way that the interface looks, you know, try Film Strip, for instance. I like Film Strip sometimes because it puts the thumbnails down at the bottom lets you scroll, and it gives you a nice large preview in the top window up here. Some people like that. You can search by metadata, so it has small images, keywords, preview with a film strip on the left, okay, light table, okay, which basically shows all the images, you know, and you can make the thumbnails larger or smaller, again, like this, by folders, okay, and essentials. So depends on, you know, what you like and how you work. It's very customizable. There's other things up here that Adobe Bridge can do. We can come up here and you can see Adobe Bridge has some preferences in here, has files. You can move things to the trash. You can get photos from your camera. You can do some editing in here, like rotating things and changing some settings and so on and so forth. But we're not going to get into all that just right yet. But just know that Bridge is a program by itself, and there's a lot that you can do here. Okay. So with that, I'll close this session and we'll start our first project.